Modern conventional warfare, costs and outcomes in the 21st century. Wondering if this is heading more towards the drone stuff. A discussion of the potential costs and possible outcomes of modern conventional state-on-state warfare. Maybe it's more electronic. Modern revolution in the military arts. They actually, it's weird how like they actually describe warfare as an art. Like, I mean, I know it's like the art of war, right? Like Sun Tzu or whatever, but still, I find it a strange crossover.
Yeah, well, it's a totally different way of thinking about killing people than I think people, maybe from our perspective, would apply to this type of thing. I mean, it shows you the way that they're kind of dissociating themselves from what they're actually doing.
Yeah, and the way that they're trying to make it like it's academic, it's intellectual, it's like, what, it's still killing. Like no matter how artfully you pull it off, it's actually still just killing.
And then it goes on to say this revolution is the current version of, and then I can't see because of our Zoom chat what the next line is, but.
Current version of an ongoing series of fundamental changes in the way wars are fought now and into the future.
Well, that's literally redundant and saying exactly what they said in the last line. So they're not actually giving you any new information.
The only wars that I know of that were even going on at this time is Iraq and Afghanistan, right? Why are we on?
Yeah, but those aren't really. I mean, no. Once they had overthrown Saddam, they weren't fighting a conventional war anymore.
Well, right? Because Iraq, they actually didn't even have initially didn't even have anyone fighting them.
Yeah. So mostly it's been an unconventional situation for the last however many years. So.
Right. But what I read from this is that Iraq and Afghanistan was an opportunity for them to test a whole bunch of new technology and weaponry. And that now they're like, this is like, turning the corner to the new century of warfare or whatever.
That makes sense.
That's my take on it, because it is a well-established fact that they literally use these war zones as testing grounds.
Yeah, and they're probably, from the way that reads to me as well, they have to be looking forward to the future of what could potentially happen. I mean, obviously, that there's just no other way to read that.
Okay, let's go back over it because I think this is going to be an important document. This revolution is the current version of an ongoing series of fundamental changes in the way wars are fought, and into the future, as you say. However, revolutionary weapons systems, strategies, and tactics do not necessarily result in assured military outcomes. And this is precisely what we've seen. So what they're saying is we might have all this fandangled new stuff that can do all of these amazing things. However, we can still be defeated by a traditional, local civilian insurgency, as we have been for hundreds of years. Because time and time again, they have been unable to completely subjugate an urban area over a prolonged period of time just by having superior firepower or more artful methods of killing.
And I can just see the ... at the end of this. Therefore, keep funding us, keep giving us more money
to keep more stuff.
Yeah, so that we can beat the threats that are hypothetical. So.
Nor can the weapon system's costs be measured simply in monetary units. The presentation and discussion will seek to look at this revolution. I find it quite offensive that even gets used in that term. And it's top secret. And provide the participants with a broad understanding of military and political challenges of modern conventional warfare in the 21st century.
I really want to apply this to drones, but they don't go specific enough to know if that's specifically what they were referring to. It's the right time period.
Electronic weapon systems.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the next big one.
That would make sense.
the WikiLeaks documents showed them as being tested. I think the documents of 2011 or 2012 showed electronic weapons as being tested, operationally feasible, and rolling out to law enforcement from 2014 to 2024. Now, for the weapons, the private for-profit weapons companies to be publishing marketing brochures on it in 2011 means that it must have been invented and tested by the military long, because this is the entry to commercial space, right?
Yeah.
So it must have been like 7-10 years prior that they were testing that. So you can assume that those electronic weapon systems, which we're only just now learning even exist and aren't just a conspiracy theory, were probably initially deployed. And actually, now I think about it, there was some like erroneous articles about like the armies blowing up a tank with a laser or something in Afghanistan, I remember.
Yeah, I think I remember that as well. I'm not sure about the details, but
blowing up a truck by like using a laser targeting the gas tank or whatever. So you get like erroneous reports like slip through, or just random reports slip through on occasion. But
it sort of sets the stage,
or they allow it to. It's possible that they're deliberately like allowing that to come through. But what I'm trying to say is I think that it probably is a 10-year gap between it being in a top secret lab in the military and it moving through the weapons manufacturers. That marketing report that I'm talking about, you had to pay 8,000 euros to access that report. So it's interesting because we had this, you and I had this conversation last week about the access spectrum for technology, new technology. Yeah. How it goes from the military to the military commercial to the corporate to the populations of the favored, to American population, then to the populations of the most favored countries. But this access to information also has the same spectrum. So if you're in the military, you get to access information that is not available in the commercial or the corporate sphere. But if you're in the corporate sphere, you get to access information that is not available in the public sphere. And how they create the barriers to who can access the information is by creating economic barriers.
Yeah.
So if your company can afford to pay 8,000 euros for one report on weapon systems, then you have information in your hand about the weapon systems that are being developed and are being rolled out, the revolutionary modern weapon systems that are being rolled out. If you cannot afford to pay 8,000 euros for a couple of pages report, which is like the entire general public pretty much, then you do not have access to that information. So
yeah, and I think this conversation is going to be more, we're probably going to come back to this over and over again as we go through this batch and the next couple batches because of the time period that we're going through with this. I mean, it's just more and more relevant because there's going to be so many more developments that then, like you said, are then filtered through these kind of stages of military, then corporations, then eventually later to the public. So yeah, I think last time we spoke about this, I compared it. It always strikes me as similar to the way that corporate media filters stories and information, and the whole concept of information being power. That whole issue, that's very much parallel to me with this technology throttling sort of dynamic that happens.
Look, this is also what we saw coming from Stratfor. So Stratfor tried to create the same type of system where thank you, Cockatoo. Where by paying them money, a pretty sizable amount of money. I can't remember how much it was, but it was definitely would have been pretty expensive for the average person. By paying them the subscription, you then could access all of this geopolitical information that otherwise you wouldn't be able to in the public sphere, or from their network of spies and insiders and informants and whatever all around the world. So yet again, the barrier for the regular person to accessing that information was an economic barrier. So you have classification barriers, like this is a top secret session. If you don't hold a top secret clearance, you cannot attend it. It will not be videotaped. The information will not be shared. But then you have economic barriers, and they exist right across the commercial space and to the public as well.
Yeah, and beyond that too, you have
has the information.
And then you have like beyond the economic barrier, you have how many people actually would even know about the fact that such and such document exists, who of those people who would want to access it. So, you know, there's all sorts of issues with all of these things.
Of course, and then obviously there's educational barriers, and there's language barriers, and there's other barriers that are engineered to prevent people from accessing and understanding.
And that goes into a whole meta conversation about the state of society and all that sort of thing. But
definitely. But I did find it very interesting because studying that, the document I'm referring to, by the way, is from the hacking team dump. WikiLeaks, the hacking team releases. And that was the first time that I realized that this is a standard practice, that these weapons manufacturers put together these marketing brochures, not just about buy this tank or buy this plane, but about new cutting edge technologies that aren't in the public sphere. And then, I mean, they went so far in this document as to list every single manufacturer of the products and every single country and force that had procured those products, and a bunch of other information. But yes, without WikiLeaks, and this is, I mean, okay, now we're going to get on a rant about the power of WikiLeaks. Without WikiLeaks, if you didn't have 8,000 euros to pay for that report, you would never know about it. So what WikiLeaks is doing is literally democratizing information. It literally is. WikiLeaks, those barriers that we've just discussed, WikiLeaks is smashing them out of existence.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we can get on an entire conversation about how important WikiLeaks is, and it's democratizing the information, and it's allowing, I think I've said this before on a stream, it's allowing independent media and independent journalists basically to exist, because without something like WikiLeaks, you know, all we can do is kind of parrot some of the information that you know, we would kind of be stuck in that pyramid of information that is controlled by the corporate state. And with WikiLeaks, we are able to circumvent that. And it's, yeah, I think, you know, John Pilger's talked about how WikiLeaks has changed the entire journalistic scene. And literally he was asked about how, you know, have whistleblowers increased over time? And he said, no, it's the same. People have always been whistleblowing, but WikiLeaks has changed everything. And so
the model, right? It's changed.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I don't think you cannot overstate how important WikiLeaks is.